going to be talking about reflection and goal setting today. And if you are familiar, as we all are right now, with Zoom, I'll take you to the next slide where we have your chat box options for you. Make sure that you introduce yourself. Feel free to use the chat to answer questions, share an idea, putting some links in. We've got our colleagues in the background adding links for you. Make sure that you are using the components in the chat box and that you are posting to all panelists and attendees. If you want to note just to the panelists, of course, you can choose that drop-down menu as well. And so on the next slide, you will see our team here. Some of us face forward and some of us in the background. I'm Shamron Coyle. I am proud to be part of this amazing team of women. We have Elisa Torres Barton, who is driving the bus for us in the background. And we have Elise Yerke also joining us from Los Angeles. And she's going to be populating the chat with all of the links that we will need for today. And I'll pass it over to my sidekick, Becky, and she can introduce herself this evening.
All right, thank you, Shamron. My name is Becky Canham, and I am one of the implementation specialists working out of the Placer County Office of Ed. So excited to be here and so impressed to see so many educators joining us after your school year has ended. So thank you again. Hopefully you will enjoy our reflection goal setting session.
Awesome.
If you need closed captions, you can click the CC at the bottom, or if you don't see it, you can find it in the more option on Zoom.
Wonderful. Thank you, Becky. Next slide for us.
Thank you.
So go ahead, Becky.
Sorry, we wanted to set you up to make sure that you have all the documents that you need that could support your learning today. So we have a home-based document that will have our recording of this session will be there after it's completed. It has some additional resources and information about the session. We will be offering a personal reflection document for some of our tasks that we'll engage in together this afternoon. And then we also will have a discussion board where we can share some ideas with one another. And Elise will be dropping those into the chat. Next slide, please. So we want to take a moment to share some of the feedback from our last session. So our theme today is reflection and goal setting. So we want you to know that we use your feedback to reflect on our design, to reflect on our sessions, and to set goals for future sessions.
So some of the things that you shared with us in a previous session, useful information here. So in our past session, you talked about that there were new resources and suggestions on what to do for your future classes. We offered an introduction to another CAST program called Corgi. People really responded well to this concept of the start, keep, stop framework. As we move into our reflection and goal setting today, you might want to think about those same concepts. What do you want to start doing? What do you want to keep doing? And what do you want to stop doing based on all of the learning that we've experienced this year? So people found it really useful to pause for connections and reflections, and that we provided time for you to make those connections to your current practices. A lot of folks found a lot of the strategies that we offered to be very practical. The summaries of what you could do in each of the 3 practices was helpful, and it made this particular learner think in different ways. And one of the other ones that was very helpful from our last section was this concept of different tiers for feedback based on what the students need. So those were some of the useful pieces of feedback that people shared with us in our last session.
So some of the feedback that was provided in terms of what was a little bit challenging or maybe less useful, some people shared that the time spent on the Google Sheets was a little too long. So maybe 5 minutes for the first one and then 2 or 3 for the others. So you'll see that we have taken that feedback and kind of redesigned our session together this afternoon to kind of account for that. So we'll be a little bit more flexible with our timing. And then we also asked for some suggestions for future webinars, and some of the feedback was to continue to provide helpful resources and strategies. So more of the great webinars. Sorry, I know it is not specific, but I just love them all. And then taking each section, I know, so sweet, right? Taking each section of this session and making it the sole topic. So we really, really appreciate the feedback, especially the suggestions for future planning. We are in the process of starting to design our webinar series or series because we may have multiple ones for next school year. So when we share the link for the feedback, we would really love to hear some of those topics or the format, some suggestions to help us design our webinar series for the upcoming school year. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you. And we referenced if you'll have an opportunity to even reflect upon and explore some of the resources that were developed in our previous webinar series during our time today. So based on your feedback and what we've been able to survive this year in teaching and learning in a pandemic, we've designed some options for your engagement today with 3 different activities. The first activity is an opportunity to spend some time in personal reflection with some questions to maybe guide your exploration there. Our second activity, you'll be able to explore and reflect on resources that were shared collectively throughout our time together in our webinar series. And then the final activity is we'll offer some opportunities for you to look at goal setting, both for yourself personally, as well as professionally in whatever context that might be. So to kick us off, it's always important to start off with a celebration because, oh my goodness, we survived teaching and learning in a pandemic. And there were so many great learning opportunities and so many amazing things that we discovered. We wanted to take a minute to celebrate that. So why don't you take us through that next part, Becky?
All right, so for the next couple of minutes, we're going to give you an opportunity, like Shamron said, to really celebrate those successes. So take a moment to reflect on and think about what is it that you're most proud of accomplishing during the 2021 school year. It can be a personal accomplishment, it can be a professional accomplishment. Just making it to June 14th might be your most proud accomplishment, and we definitely understand that after the challenging year that we all have endured. So again, we wanted to start with just some of the positives, sharing some successes. So we're going to ask you to respond on the home base document. There is a place for the celebration board at the very top, or you are welcome to celebrate individually and write it down on a Post-it note to keep that close to you, or you may also share in the chat box.
I noticed Jennifer says just surviving and being able to switch over to remote teaching and learning. It's been a huge year of learning. That's awesome. What a wonderful opportunity. Surviving definitely seems to be the theme. That's for sure. So
yeah, and it's definitely, sorry, it's definitely something to be proud of this year, because as we know, this was a very challenging year in so many different ways. So hopefully you were able to think of a few things that you're proud of accomplishing this year, and you reflect back on those as we continue through our session together this afternoon.
So our goals for today, we talked about those 3 opportunities that we'll have for engagement, but we're going to really look at reflections. We're going to have an opportunity to reflect on our successes, our challenges, and the barriers that teaching through a pandemic has brought to the table. And we will be exploring goal setting to address those barriers so that every learner has the opportunity to thrive.
So we wanted to start our time thinking about reflecting and goal setting by listening or viewing a video where some students share their reflections of the 2020, of the year 2020, and then also share with us some lessons that they learned. So as you're viewing the video, just kind of use the guiding question of what lessons can we learn from these students?
I'm not hearing audio.
Sound.
No.
Do you have audio?
Sound, pause, okay.
I'm proud of being able to pivot on a Zoom in a minute and try to figure out what the technical difficulty is. Thanks for hanging with us, everybody. We had this planned out, but man, oh man. I
Yeah.
think for us, one of our biggest anxieties before we jump onto any of this is Zoom gonna work? Is everything that we've planned?
And after all this time, we still run into glitches, so. Mhm.
All right, let me know now.
We don't see your full screen. You've got to go in presentation mode. We can hear the video though. We still can't see what you're presenting, Elisa.
Elisa, I just think you had to click present. You just, we could see your slides, but you weren't in present mode.
I don't know if you can see it, Becky. All the participants are so supportive over in the chat. You feel us. We know what it's like. And it's usually something small, a button we forgot to click, something we forgot to toggle. So thank you again, everybody.
Yes, thank you for understanding. And it's always something small that we've done a whole bunch of times, but thank you, Elisa.
Yay! We love this video.
Hello everyone, my name is Habibi. I'm in Indonesia and
My name is Monse Oria. I am 16 years old and I am from Mexico.
Hello, my name is Luca Yoshida and I'm 11 years old. Today I would like to share with you my own reflection on 2020.
I think everyone will agree that 2020 so far has been a year that we will never forget.
The Australian bushfires, the Black Lives Matter movement, the COVID-19 pandemic, and climate change. The list never seems to end of what all we have went through in this year till now.
Many young people and teenagers throughout the world have faced the issue of isolation and the feeling of separation from our friends and family.
The hardest part about COVID-19 for me is that I have 2 people of my household are key workers. My family could be at higher risk.
The most difficult part in this pandemic from my point of view is losing a loved one. This is happening all over the world. Everyone is losing family members and jobs. We don't have a guaranteed life, so am I happy with the life that I led?
What if? I decided to face this one question with optimism. What if I stop fearing change? We all know change can be scary and difficult, but it can also lead to amazing things. I learned how to stop questioning these feelings and start living through change.
I am still hopeful because I know that I'm not the only person that is facing all of this, and these problems are being faced in all countries and in many different places.
And this year, I learned that it is extremely crucial to have the ability to adapt.
I've also had to cope with new restrictions, and I've had to sanitize my hands quite a lot during the day now.
Before the pandemic, I was so busy that I put myself on hold. I have been able to get this pandemic by focusing on the future and finding myself.
This past year, I have learned many important things from myself to society. Life is not only about following a straight path, being boring and doing things that make you unhappy. On the contrary, it's about living, doing what you like the most, sharing your ideas and knowledge to the world, surrounding yourself with the people you love the most, and creating a better world at the moment.
2020 gave us unparalleled experiences, calling for necessary changes, such as a need to ease the impact of climate change by reducing our carbon footprint, and to support healthcare providers, essential workers, and marginalized communities.
Something good has to come out of this. For example, we are helping the environment. Since the coronavirus outbreak, the air has been cleaner, and the emission of gases that contribute to the climate change have been reduced.
We've shown that people from all over the world can unite, and together we can do anything.
I think the world has changed for the better this year by everyone realizing how important it is to stay socialized and connected to people.
I'm still staying energized because I want to make my parents proud and I want to be a successful person. I'm still hopeful because I know COVID-19 will end soon.
I infer this pandemic gives us the opportunity to move on despite how hard the journey may be.
I believe that in those moments, the virtues of determination and courage comes in handy. And I believe that if we conquer these virtues, these hardships would truly change the world for a better place. A place where the environment is protected, racial diversities and differences are respected for, and all fellow beings are cared in a similar fashion.
So when the year 2020 goes down into our history books, we shall not be pitied as the unfortunate generation that lost out, but the generation that overcame adversities to pioneer the world to do better and be better. And it all started in 2020.
Oh, sorry we didn't give you the Kleenex warning before we did that one. Every time I see that, it captures so much for me. It captures so much, and I have the chills every time we watch it still. So thank you.
Yeah, it's just so amazing how positive each of their messages was. Very, very, very optimistic and hopeful. So I love that video as well.
Yeah, I think so too. So when we look at our next slide, we have a really poignant quote there from John Dewey. We do not learn from experience, we learn from reflecting on our experience. And, you know, our collective experience of living through this past year of teaching and learning and surviving in a pandemic has been tremendous. And I have such hope with what I've seen and what I've heard. And I have such hope for our kids in terms of next steps and moving forward. And so we would like to take a minute for you to spend some time in self-reflection. And we want to offer some guiding questions to you. There they are. What did you learn about yourself as a person this year? How about yourself as a teacher or a coach or a leader? What did you learn about your emotions and your resilience? And what do you need in order to thrive, not to survive, but in order to thrive? And what did you learn about your students and your colleagues throughout all of this experience together?
So before we give you the opportunity to engage in some self-reflection, we wanted to provide some options for you to reflect. So we're going to ask that you reflect on the year by highlighting significant highs, lows, and learning moments. So here's some options that you could use to engage in your own self-reflection. You could create a simple illustrated timeline to reflect the year. You could sketch out the year using a storyboard or dialogue boxes. Perhaps you want to get up and get moving and do a little dance to reflect on the year.
You just made a visual for me, and we can't see anybody. Your cameras aren't activated in this particular webinar format, but I have this vision of all of the attendees somehow in the background doing an interpretive dance of surviving a pandemic.
I love it. And music, perhaps you like to write in song or in verse. Just writing a simple journal entry reflecting on the year. Having a conversation or a reflection document. So again, just providing some different options of ways you might choose to engage in self-reflection.
Really like that music option. It made me think of creating a playlist of what my experience has been like in the pandemic.
Yeah, I think a playlist is a great idea. I am definitely not creative enough to write any music, but I do think I could curate a playlist. So we're going to give you some time to engage in some self-reflection. So there's two options on how you might engage in self-reflection. So the first one is to reflect individually on the 2021 school year. So you might choose to do a timeline, a storyboard, dialogue boxes, dance, or music, have that conversation. Or we've also provided a personal reflection document. The second option is a little bit more of a public reflection. So reflect by responding to the guiding questions on the discussion board. So again, you have an individual option or a little bit more public option for self-reflection. And we are going to send you off with a 5-minute timer. So feel free to, I was going to say turn off your cameras, but then I forgot we were in a webinar and we can't see you. So
I'm still going to dream about everybody doing an interpretive dance.
If you'd like to raise your hand, we could promote someone to a panelist if they would like to share their interpretive dance.
That's great.
Okay.
I'm seeing some really beautiful things popping up in that shared document, Becky.
Me too. And I see some people already adding +1. If there's a particular thought or comment that stands out to you, go ahead and feel free to +1 it to show that you agree, or put a question mark if there's something you might have a question about. So about 30 more seconds, and then we'll come back together, finish up the thought that you're writing.
Just beautiful reflections and vulnerability and truth in what's coming forward. And, you know, it's important. It was such a hectic go year. There wasn't often time built in to really just pause and reflect about what has worked and what hasn't worked, even on a personal level. So thank you all for sharing. I think I would +1 about every single thing that I read.
I was thinking the same, and I really appreciate people just being honest and sharing those things that that was learned about your own self. I know I learned a few things about myself that I might not be so proud of, but I appreciate the vulnerability sharing that. Thank you. So we took a few minutes to engage in some personal or some self-reflection. So we want to spend a few more minutes in reflection, but really thinking more in terms of learning. So thinking about the guiding questions, what did you learn about creating the conditions for learning? So again, we know there was lots of challenges, lots of changes, lots of new things to think about and consider when designing instruction. So what did you learn about creating the conditions for learning? And also, what new literacy practices or strategies were you successful implementing during the 2021 school year? So was there something new that you would like to share that you felt was really effective or successful? So we're going to give you in just a minute, again, kind of like we just did, we're going to provide 2 options for reflecting on learning. So the first option, you're going to have the opportunity, Sharon mentioned this at the beginning, but to go back to some of the responses on our discussion boards from some of our previous webinars. So for option 1, you can read through the strategies or resources shared on the discussion boards from the previous webinars. So there's one discussion board from our webinar on engaging in literacy, one from our webinar on executive functions, one from the webinar on comprehension, and one from the webinar on expression and communication. And the second option, this will kind of be the more public option, will be to share your top 5 literacy practices and strategies from the 2021 year on the discussion board. So you are free to engage in one or both of the options. So we'll start out with 5 minutes, but we'll kind of check in and see how the discussion boards look. We might come back together a little bit sooner, depending on the activity.
Yeah, and I appreciate having those kind of artifacts from our past sessions together for folks that maybe this is the first time they're joining one of our sessions. You'll get to go back and kind of poke around and see some really great ideas from experts in the field. So we'll check back in a couple of minutes, folks. So feel free to go in. I really am looking forward to your top 5 as well. I'm seeing lots of folks check in on that engaging in literacy discussion board, Becky. There's some great ideas moving forward.
I also see some really great reflection on the discussion board around what we learned about the conditions for learning.
I think it's pretty safe to slide on back in right now. One of the reflections I saw was the Mac Butterfly keyboard was terrible. That one made me laugh out loud.
Yeah, that one made me laugh, and admin is not always right. That made me laugh too.
Definitely not. But I really appreciated being able to go back and reflect at some of the work that we've done together here in our webinar series. You know, I've engaged in so much learning throughout the year. There's this mental pile of, I need to remember that, I need to remember that. And so I was grateful to be able to go back and look at what we were able to create together in some of our past sessions.
I also wanted just to highlight one, the first reflection. It says humorous for this question, but I learned how important reflection is. So I appreciate that. Someone out there learned how important reflection is for themselves, but for their students as well in the learning process. So thank you for sharing that.
Exactly. So moving on to our next piece, the people who get things done, who lead, who grow and make an impact, those people have goals. And so kind of the trajectory where we're moving is self-reflection, your personal piece. Let's look collectively at some things that we've learned in terms of our instruction, our lesson design, our environment, lots of focus on engagement. A lot of comments were coming up with how important that was with that. And so what we are going to invite you to do in the next component of our webinar today is talk about goals. and what that might look like for you in the upcoming school year. Do you want to walk us through that, Becky?
Sure. So we're just going to ask you to, like Shamron said, think about what you've already been reflecting on, and use that to think about your goals for the upcoming school year. So what goals will you set for 2021 to 2022? It could be a personal goal, a professional goal, or academic goals for your learners. We're going to also have two options as we engage in this task. So again, option one, you'll have the opportunity to do some independent exploration. So we shared a few resources to deepen your understanding around the importance of goal setting and the value of goal setting. So the first one, goal setting, it's a motivational speech. It's another video. How to set goals is a student voice video. The next three are articles or blogs. So 20 goals to set for yourself, a framework for student goal setting, and how to make a teaching goal. And then the second option, again, more of a public option, is to share your goals for the 21-22 school year on the discussion board. So again, an independent and more of a public option. You can choose to engage in one or both. We will start the timer, but just like last time, we'll kind of check in and probably end before the before the 5 minutes.
We've got a pretty busy discussion board going on, Becky. I'm really inspired by a lot of the goal setting that I'm seeing here.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Some really great goals. And I love that I see a goal that is including reflection in lessons.
Yeah, so rare is it that in the in-person setting, how we try so hard to fit so much in, and we forget about the importance of pausing and stopping to reflect on our learning.
And I also really appreciate seeing goals around, social emotional learning, the human side of our profession, try to bring joy to the classroom, relax, refresh, and come back reinvigorated. Awesome.
Beautiful. Somebody wants to teach at the university level to create a perceptual change for new teachers and new guidelines for the teaching profession. Wow, Not
I love
everything
that.
comes out of a textbook. So
Mhm.
inspiring. So inspiring.
I love, and I know this will particularly speak to Elisa as well, think about fun ways to include literacy goals across content areas. Great goal.
I'm doing a dance with my camera off
Yeah.
on that one. Thank you.
Awesome.
I still have that mental picture. Everybody's in the background dancing right now. I swear by it. Why don't we go ahead and come back together? It looks like things are slowing down a bit on that reflection board. And just know, folks, that all of these resources are available for you forever. They are out there. You can always access them in your home-based documents. And all of these things you can come back and, oh, I remember when that webinar, there was a resource there I wanted to remember about. This will still be there for you. So, as we move forward and we look to kind of closing up our time together with you today on reflection and goal setting, but also closing our time on just this momentous year, it's really important to remember the joy and kind of the why of why we are in this business in the first place. And so we really need to focus. And I love this quote by James Allen: work joyfully and peacefully, knowing that right thoughts and right efforts will inevitably bring about the right results. And it's just when you work with your heart and you're doing it for the right reasons, there really is no wrong answer for that. So it's really inspiring. So as we move forward, and you can see from the format of our webinars, we really do take your feedback and your topics to heart. We really would like to know what we can provide. What topics are you curious about? What do you want to know more about? How can we continue to be of service to our fellow educators in California as we move deeper into our work around inclusive literacy? So we will invite you to please fill out our reflection and goal setting survey. I believe Elise is putting the link to those in our chat. You can also scan with your QR code on your phone, and you can copy and paste the document into your web browser of choice. We also invite you to stay connected with us as we get deeper into our work and creating content for you. Keep checking our website out. There will be a lot of tools and opportunities for you to continue to engage with us and expand your learning, and also share your learning and expertise with us. Also an opportunity, if you haven't already, to subscribe to the CAST newsletter. It's going to give you some great updates on upcoming professional learning and opportunities for you to continue to engage with us there. So we really welcome your feedback as we move forward. And we thank you so much for showing up on June 14th after a horrendous school year, to say the least, and continuing to provide your energy and your engagement as we have survived, and hopefully will continue to thrive with the lessons that we've learned throughout the time in moving through this pandemic together. So we thank you very much for being here with us. Again, please take a minute to fill out that survey and let us know your thoughts. You're free to put stuff in the chat as well. And we will hang out here if you have other questions, or if there is anything else that we can answer for you, or any other resources we might be able to support as we move through the evening. So thank you all again very much for being here.
Yes, thank you for joining us. Enjoy your summer, relax, and refresh.
Don't forget to dance it out. Thank you, everyone.